Hello. So my name's Barnaby Dye. I'm one of the social science researchers on the politics stream of the FutureDAMS project. I'm working at the University of Manchester and the Global Development Institute. And I'm going to be presenting on the three areas of work that I do for FutureDAMS. One is on Ghana, one on India, and one document that David and I have put together called the FutureDAMS Manual. So to take the first of these on Ghana, again, it breaks down into three areas. The first of these I've been working on, and that's around electricity generation decision-making in Ghana. And for this, there'll be a working paper coming out in November. And this really tells the story of the politics of two crises in Ghana. The first was called Dumsor, and which in the local language means on-off in Akan in Ghana. And that was basically about a crisis, which you can see here, of power crisis, of electricity cuts, which is signified by this stagnation and drop here. And that crisis then was followed by a crisis of oversupply, which is where you've seen a more or less doubling of installed generation in Ghana, but just a gradual increase in peak load, i.e. in demand. And that's problematic because this has mainly happened through contracting the private sector, independent power producers, IPPs, as you can see there. And that's problematic because these IPP contracts have a take or pay clause. So Ghana's having to pay for this power regardless of the fact that it can't sell it, regardless of the fact that it basically has double the amount it needs. And so I explain the politics in this paper of why this happened, which is essentially shared and around the sort of short-termism that's pervaded a lot of Ghana's policy making. And so I show why that short-termism takes place and the political factors behind that. The second stream of work I'm doing with Dr. Ishmael Anor, and this is more on the bureaucracy in Ghana, the bureaucracy that's in charge of managing water and electricity decision-making. And here we're looking at what are the political processes that support that adequate financing with sort of long-term planning, the meritocratic recruitment of those bureaucracies so that they can be effective. But equally then the politics that sometimes dismantle that and negatively affect those bureaucracies. And here we're looking at the VRA, the Volta River Authority, as a sort of partial pocket of effectiveness. The third stream of work in Ghana is with Simon at the University of Ghana. And here it's more focused on the distribution of the electricity system benefits. So this is thinking about who's benefiting from the current setup of that electricity system, both in literally who's getting the electricity, but also who's getting those contracts to produce electricity, who's benefiting from the way the tariff regime is structured. And that work has been somewhat delayed because of COVID, but hopefully we're going to start writing that up at the end of the year. The second stream of work is India, which I've been sort of overseeing as the social science work happening in India related to the politics of dams there. And there are two work streams being undertaken by Indian researchers. The first is Dr. Shruti Jain, who we've appointed as a postdoc in the early summer, who's working with Professor Amita Bavaskar at IEG, University of Delhi. And that project is looking at India's Himalayan dam building, and particularly the Panashawa Dam and some of its international relations as well as national politics. The second bit of work is being done by Adisha, and she's done primary research in Nepal, looking at dam building there and India-Nepali relations around dam building, including India's role as an emergent dam builder, well, actually it has a longer history, but as a financier and builder of dams in Nepal. Related to that is my own work looking at India's dam building in Africa. And here I presented on the FutureDAMS webinar series over the summer, so you can see there. And that's basically the sort of groundwork for a paper which should be out in November. That takes the Nyabarongo Dam in Rwanda, which is financed by the Indian Exim Bank and built by two Indian contractors, as a case study for India's dam building in Africa, and I analyze what is sort of different about India as a dam builder in Africa. Then the second paper I'm working on there is about the way in which India's standards have increasingly converged with some of those of the World Bank, and look at how much is that really happening around dam and infrastructure financing, or is there still a big gap between what India's doing and what we're sort of more traditional, if you like, established players are doing. The third stream of work I've been handling is with David Hulme, and here we've put together what we call the FutureDAMS manual, and this is about trying to sort of gather a body of social science work together to accompany the technical team's production of this water, food, energy, environment nexus model. And our idea is really to take the standard knowledge about dam decision making and put it into a document which is then relevant and applied to what the FutureDAMS technical team is doing. And our motivation here was to really capture the sort of gamut of thinking out there about how to do this in a way which is more participatory, is more sort of stakeholder based. The rationale for that being that if you involve a wider section of society, you can try and create recommendations which are going to be more acceptable to that wider society. So if you're including people from civil society organizations, or those from affected communities, or those living by rivers, then you're more likely to get an outcome which more people are going to agree to. At least that's a sort of democratic principle behind it. But then there's also a principle around trying to include those forms of knowledge which aren't in the sort of formal scientific data. So trying to bring people who have knowledge of a river but maybe more informal, and maybe sort of smallholder farmers and their knowledge, or other people who sort of live by the river and know some of its dynamics, and bring them into the decision-making table so that they can share their experience around what the impacts of certain projects may or may not be. And so we set out a sort of I think it's a 5-step process for how to go about doing this decision-making stakeholder process. And we're not doing that because we think it's a sort of quick fix and it's going to solve all the politics around dams, but we feel like such a document needs to be out there so that if people want to do it in a way which is building on our sort of very established knowledge about how dam decision making works, there's a document they can turn to which captures some of that established thinking. And we in the manual we also talk about some of the pitfalls and the problems that people have had trying to adopt these sort of more participatory stakeholder approaches over time. And so the next stage is really to think about how to try and disseminate this, and maybe whether we can try and bring this into something like the FCDO's policy. And we've just won a grant to make a more tailored version of this in Ghana. So hopefully next year we'll be working with some stakeholders in Ghana to build something that's more relevant for that particular context, which then hopefully gets embedded in the government now. So yeah, these are the 3 areas of work that I've been doing for FutureDAMS, and I'm very happy to talk to people about them and potential collaborations. Thanks very much.